variables around them just don't give them the opportunity to be soft or to be weak, right? And to just fall into her dad's arms. She has to take up the mantle of that family, right? These environments are not all the way, but they're more conducive to building up what is healthy masculinity, or what the world deems as like the acceptable form of masculinity, because these tough environments make you more tough, and they make you more brute, and they make you more stoic, and prepare you to go out into a world and conquer the world. But that's not what the world expects from women. The world expects women to be docile and demure in the world, and to show up softly. But how can I show up softly if my circumstances never gave me the opportunity to cultivate softness? Hello, family. Welcome or welcome back to the Bastion of Critical Thinking. My name is Raven, thought leader, therapist, and theologian, and I am always so happy to have you with me today. And if you're new here, welcome. Clap it up for yourself. We call ourselves the critical thinkers over here, and that's exactly what we do. We spend 30, 40, sometimes hour-long, well, I haven't done an hour-long video yet, but we spend a whole lot of time just thinking critically through things in culture and in faith and in the Black community specifically. I've been on that tip for a minute, but that's okay, because that's where I'm coming to reform the most, because I love my people deeply. Also, BTW, if you're new here, or if you're not new here, you're probably looking around like, girl, this does not look like our normal set, fam. What's happening? I am on vacation right now. I'm on my way to Italy, and so I had to stop through somewhere to do this video, so I'm at a friend's house right now in New York, because I'm like, oh, I got to talk about this, because I couldn't pass it up. I couldn't wait, and I wanted to get a video out, because I'm like, I don't want to just be a bad content creator for the sake of the fact that I'm on vacation. I'm committed to this, and I'm committed to talking to y'all and having conversations with you guys. So with that in mind, let's just hop into the video. Y'all, did you watch Daughters on Netflix? Honey, listen, that movie had me in a chokehold. I was just riveted, in tears. And y'all, I'm not kidding. I was like, like that kind of tears. It wasn't just like a one of those tears where you just kind of do a little sob, like, No, I was crying. This movie, this documentary, let me actually explain it. So the movie is about a bunch of little girls who, I think they may have highlighted like 10 or 13 girls who were growing up without their dads because their dads were in jail. It just does a walkthrough of what it's like to be a little girl with your dad in jail, and also growing up in like impoverished, marginalized areas, and some of the ramifications and the consequences of that. Okay, there's this program where this woman, she designed a program to where little girls can have interactions with their dads in jail, and they started to host this daddy-daughter dance. Now, the woman who hosted, first of all, saintly, God bless that woman's heart.
My name is Angela Patton, and I'm the founder and director of Camp Diva, a nonprofit organization that prepares girls of African descent for their passage into womanhood. Well, one day I was sitting with the girls that participate in Camp Diva, and they were having a discussion about daddy issues. And so I asked the girls how could they help foster healthy relationships between fathers and daughters. And the girls said, let's have a dance to help connect fathers and daughters and develop a healthier relationship. It was really exciting for them to use that leadership, but also to find a way in their own space to be with their fathers.
She does that. She hosts these daddy-daughter dances. I think the one in the film that was highlighted is like her 13th one, so she's been doing it for a while. Or rather, I think that she's been doing it for 13 years. I can't remember the details. Nonetheless, so she hosts this dance, and the girls are getting ready. The guys are, the men in prison, they're having to go through like this 10-week extensive program leading up to the dance to prepare. It's like a fatherhood course.
My daughter was born when I was in prison. I had to see her through a glass. Couldn't kiss her, couldn't hold her. My mother was incarcerated, paid 10 years. But it's like, damn, man, my daughter going through the same thing that I've been through.
The movie masterfully portrays the deep emotional toll this dynamic takes on young girls who are forced to navigate life without the presence of their dads, all while grappling with the harsh realities and circumstances of their environments, right? Living in marginalized communities. It's a story of loss in some sense, but also survival and the complicated relationship between incarceration and family dynamics, right? And I think for me personally, what sets Daughters apart is its focus on the perspective of the girls, right? Not just the dads, but the girls whose lives are shaped by the absence of their very dads, but also by the constant yearning for connection with them. So they lost them, but they also want them. And it doesn't just tell the story of the men in prison, but it reveals the rippling effects that incarceration has on daughters, children of all, but definitely daughters, and young Black girls specifically, who are often forced too soon to bear burdens that, unless you live in them, you can't properly imagine the toll that they take on these girls. So this was important for me to point out here on my channel, this like reviewing this movie, because I know that I and many people like me often receive a great deal of pushback for the critiques and public commentary I make against or towards Black culture, as if, like I said in my last video, I don't understand that the very stories that were told in this film are the exact lives or close to it that many Black children are experiencing. And as a result, their fathers' mistakes and the broken justice system don't just steal the men's freedom, they rob these girls and young boys too of their childhoods. And so anyway, this film delves deep into the complex emotions these girls experience: loneliness, anger, and the deep, deep desire to feel loved and protected by their dads, even from afar. And through all of this, they demonstrate such beautiful resilience. It made me sad, actually. That is inspiring, but honestly, y'all, it was deeply tragic. One of the themes that strikes me most in the film is that it isn't explicitly said, but because I'm a student of culture and I be noticing things and thinking deeply through stuff beyond the surface, In the doc, I saw how the girls were asked to maintain or remain strong by their dads. And that's what I want to talk about today. In the part of the film where the dance was over, after the girls were told that, okay, it's time to go home, right? You've had the time with your dads, now it's time to go back. The dads were separating from them, and the girls were obviously bawling their eyes out, right? Because they're about to have to leave their dads that they've been wanting to be in relationship with or wanting to have closeness with for a while. Whether they just met them or not, a lot of the girls just weren't ready to go. I was just noticing how the dads were like, be tough. You got this. You my soldier. You my girl. You the strong one.
Yep. Put it together. It's all right. Put it together. We ain't got but 14 months left. All right?
Yeah.
Depending on you. Look at me. Depending on you.
And in that moment, y'all, I'm not kidding, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, this is when it happens, right? This is when it happens. This is the archetype of when Black children are adultified. Don't get me wrong. I know that the world does it, right? And I know that the world treats Black children. Statistics literally show that the world sees Black children as adults much older than when they actually are adults, like, right? That's how you get a Tamir Rice. And so, yeah, the world does it, but we do it within our own homes too, right? We do this to our own kids. We adultify our kids way too soon. These girls' hearts are literally breaking for their dads, and they're breaking and desiring closeness and don't want this moment to end. But instead of being able to have a moment where their heart can break and where they're supported by the adult figures in their lives, their parents, they're re-instructed immediately and reconditioned to put on a posture of strength and put on a face of resilience at 13 and 14 and 15 and 3 and 5. And so you're probably asking, okay, Raven, but yeah, that's sad, but what does this have to do with anything? This is when it happens for Black girls. That aggression that y'all be ragging us on, that anger that y'all be ragging us on, and that I be ragging us on too, to be fair, but that frustration that you guys get with Black women, this is when it happens right here. And I know that we've heard this time and time again, and there are a ton of nuances that go with this conversation, right?
This is research on cognitive psychology. It's not research on race or gender or class or even on politics. It's research on how our brains work. It's what we call field dependency studies. And dependency here is not political dependency or economic dependency, and field is not the political field, right? It's literally our visual perceptual field. What we see and how what we see impacts how we figure out where we are in space. So they would take people, a subject, into a room, and it was dark, and they'd flip the light on. When the light was flipped on in the room, all the angles of the room were crooked. So the walls, instead of meeting at 90 degrees, would meet off kilter, and the door jamb would be off kilter, and all of the pictures on the wall would be hung at an angle. Everything around you would be off kilter to a particular angle. And you as a subject would be sitting in a chair, like if you've ever been to Universal Studios, you know, those chairs that move, right? Your responsibility as a subject was to find the straight up and down. So everything around you, everything in your perceptual field is off kilter. Your responsibility is to see if you can figure out what is straight up and down. Now, some people are field independent, and despite all these crooked images around them, they're able to find the straight up and down. But most people, the vast majority of us, are field dependent. And when all the stimuli around us tell us that the world is tilted like this, we can tilt ourselves as much as 45 degrees, but experience ourselves perceptually as straight up and down because we're in line with the crooked images. Again, this is not research on race, it's not research on gender, it's not research on politics, but the first time I encountered this, I said, oh, that is just like being a black woman in America, right? This consistent experience of walking around in a room where everything is off kilter, where everything that you expect to meet at 90 degrees is actually meeting at about 62, where that picture looks about right, but you kind of have to do like this to be able to see yourself in it. That the field, the perceptual field for African American women is literally off kilter. And so the claim I make in Sister Citizen is that resource disparity work is real political work. Running for office is real political work. Being on the school board is real political work. But it's also real political work to just try to find one's authentic sense of self in a social, political, and historical environment that is going to keep giving you back negative images and crooked ones. And
I inserted that clip because obviously I recognize that every black girl's experience isn't one that her dad is in prison. But I do recognize that the black woman's experience in this country is such that you are fed a ton of images that continue to perpetuate this ideal that you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you aren't the ideal standard of whatever beauty and femininity is. And many times it's through no fault of your own, not to absolve us of our responsibility to make our lives better and to pursue things that help us to thrive in the country. That's not what I'm saying. It doesn't absolve us, but it is a sobering reality to come to recognize that the body, the skin, the environment that you were built in are all just so happen to be counterproductive to you thriving and you rising up or you leveling up to the standard of what is acceptable in the society that you live in, right? What do I mean by that? I mean, black girls typically are darker skinned. The closer you are to Eurocentric features and Eurocentric look, the more the society regards you as pretty. Okay, shoot, one strike against us. Then you have femininity and soft, demure essence, right? Well, the closer you are to more femininity, the more likable and partnerable you are in the world where you're trying to be a romantic contender. Well, that sucks because if you're born in an impoverished neighborhood or like the film where your dads are in prison disproportionately or the men around you are locked up disproportionately, then that kind of is a strike against you too, because how can I be soft and demure in a world that hasn't given me the opportunity or the permission to be? So now I have to trek through those waters, many of which two things that I had no control over. I'm just born into this space and in this world, this crooked room, and you're asking me to stand up straight, right? And so, I mean, I can go on and on. It's so many other examples that I could use that become strikes against black women that is so difficult to just navigate through. And then so when you hear people make the critique of why don't black women just be softer or more kind or more sweet, and don't get me wrong, I will make that same case. I have a whole video about black women's aggression, right? Because I understand where it comes from, but I wanted to go a little bit more in depth in it too, because this film really, really highlighted that for me in that moment where these dads in prison are telling her, buck up, be my soldier, you my strong girl. It's like, no, she's your baby girl. But I recognize that the variables around them just don't give them the opportunity to be softer, to be weak, right? And to just fall into her dad's arms. She has to take up the mantle of that family, right? And because another one that I can think of too is because Black women are, or women in general, are so nurturing, and we are naturally and we're more naturally inclined to give nurture and to give care. We sacrifice ourselves up many times to our detriment. And then what ends up happening is we're thrust in these environments where we've given and given and given, but oftentimes not in return. So and that's women in general, but you add the elements of Black culture and all the elements of the struggles that Black people have experienced. So that's magnified to the umpteenth degree, because you have these natural inclinations to give care in an environment where people not only need care, but they need money, care, resources, help. They're depressed. Like, it's so many variables stacked against Black women to just be able to thrive. And this is all before they cock an attitude with you for whatever, right? Or maybe are too aggressive with you in the dating world. This is all before all of that. And it just so happens that the same environments that our Black brothers go through, or Black cousins and all that, these environments are not all the way, but they're more conducive to building up what is healthy masculinity, or what the world deems as like the acceptable form of masculinity, because these tough environments make you more tough, and they make you more brute, and they make you more stoic, and prepare you to go out into a world and conquer the world. But that's not what the world expects from women. The world expects women to be docile and demure in the world, and to show up softly. But how can I show up softly if my circumstances never gave me the opportunity to cultivate softness? And so I'm telling you, it's just, again, it's not an excuse, but I wanted to provide an explanation. And that's what was going through my mind when I watched this film. It made me so deeply sad, because I'm like, from the beginning, before a Black girl does anything, again, this is not that this film is reflective of all Black girls' experiences. I hope that I did give a good outline of like some of the ways that the odds are stacked against Black women before we even get the race going. So those are my thoughts on the film. I don't even really have any takeaways, other than I just wanted to share that, and I want to have some conversation in the comments. When I get back home, we can maybe do a full conversation and a breakdown on this, because I didn't even have time to like write a script or anything. I just wanted to share some thoughts and share what I felt behind it, because it made me deeply sad, and I want to have some conversation around it with you guys. Yeah, so let's talk. And until next time, I'll talk to you later. Bye.